the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours, oh Lord.
Thank all of the advocates for making this day possible. So we want to start with the Borough President Council being with us and some more elected officials. We have our assembly member who's already here with us who's going to paint. And then we'll have a nice program and then the unveiling of the new street tornado. So we thank you. You guys ready to paint? Paint! Yeah. All right, let's get going.
Victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish. And then when it's all done, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh.
Keep on running, cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
You got to tell them just like that. Screaming gangster 20 years later. Of course it does what consciousness faded. New generations believe in them fables. Gangsta boogie on 2 turntables. So no love, so it's easy to hate it. Desecrated while the coroner waited. Any given Sunday, so when y'all raided, with slavery, lynching, and them drugs infiltrated. I like that dial Chucky, baby. Keep coming back to live love life like I'm crazy. Keep it moving, rising to the top. Duck dress, clean living, you don't stop. Revolution means change, don't look at me strange. So I can't repeat what other rappers be saying. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We thank you for joining with us today and for helping with this momentous occasion. It's indeed an honor for me to be here in partnership with our Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Let's give the Borough President a round of applause. And more importantly, with our advocates who fought hard for this day. You will get to hear from each of them. They're seated in the front row. So let's give love to our advocates, please. So all of the elected officials and all the special guests who are here with us, I am Chaplain Ingrid P. Lewis Martin. I am the Deputy Brooklyn Borough President. Today, oh, thank you. Thank you. But I don't need applause, I'll do the work. Today we are here for a purpose. We are here for a purpose. I had a very long conversation with one of our advocates, Michael Tucker, who you will hear from later. And we had an in-depth conversation of the purpose. We want the world to know that Brooklyn stands in partnership with all of the other communities and counties and states to state that Black Lives Matter. When we say that Black Lives Matter, it is more than just the arguments that we've been hearing about the police department killing our brothers and sisters without cause. It's about Black lives mattering in our communities as well. The same way we want to rectify what is going on in NYPD, and we will, because we have good leaders who care. We also recognize that there is a time and a place, and the time and place is here and is right now. That we as people of color stand up for what's right, and that we tell our own that Black lives matter. The same way we don't want the cops killing us, we don't want to kill each other. So today is Black Lives Matter, meaning that whether you got killed by a police officer or whether you got killed by one of your own, it was a life that was unjustly taken and it should have never happened. And this is an opportunity for everyone. We have people of all shades of the spectrum who are here in partnership with us, of all nationalities and different creeds who are here with us. And we all care about everyone in our communities. In particular, for this day, Black Lives Matter. So the mayor isn't here at the moment, but we do anticipate him to join us at some point, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank him. He paid for this. He listened. He listened to the advocates who met with him and said, we need this to happen. And they explained to him why it was important for it to happen. Brooklyn is the second borough that officially has Black Lives Matter on it, from the office of the mayor. Brooklyn Borough Hall is the second official painting of Black Lives Matter. So we thank him for that. We say thank you with love, genuinely, and we want everyone to know that Black Lives Matter all over, but today in Brooklyn. So for your edification and your enjoyment, and maybe you'll get some knowledge, it's with great pleasure that I introduce a young man who used to be one of my students in a night center many years ago at 271. He's now a reverend. So you see, I was his executive director in the night center. Now he's a leader. I'm a chaplain and he's a full-out reverend. So I'm trying to follow his footsteps now. Without any further ado, Reverend Kevin McCall. Let's give the Reverend a hand.
No justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Brooklyn, Brooklyn, Brooklyn. First of all, I want to thank God for waking us up this morning, for starting me on my way. I want to thank the Borough President. Let's give him a hand, Eric Adams. Come on, y'all can do better than that. He's doing a great job here in Brooklyn. And I want to thank all the elected officials that are here, Councilmember Farrah Lewis, Councilmember Assemblywoman Burchett, Assemblywoman Simeon, all the elected officials. Let's give them all a hand. Excuse me if I didn't name your name. But this is about the people. Today is about the people. Myself, along with Aisha Sekou, Mike Tucker, Anthony Beckford, Bishop Kareem Evans, Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, we all met with the mayor on a Sunday afternoon, and we told the mayor that we need across this city to recognize that Black Lives Matter. And he said that he will see what he can do when we left the meeting. About a couple of hours later into Monday morning, we get a call from the mayor's office saying that the mayor has agreed to paint Black Lives Matter across this city. And that's because it's the power of the people. The people is what make things work. When you put pressure on people, you get a response from people that are in authority. So as we continue to do it across this city, there's no better way to do it in my hometown, Brooklyn. There's no better way to do it right in front of the injustices that happens to black and brown and Latino people right here in Brooklyn. So we are painting today Black Lives Matter in the name of Saheed Vessel. We are painting Black Lives Matter in the name of Deron Smalls. We are painting Black Lives Matter in the name of Tavon Santana. We are painting Black Lives Matter for each and every Brooklynite. So every court officer, every judge, every police officer, when they drive their car, when they walk this beat, they will understand one thing, that Black Lives Matter. Thank you, God bless you, and heaven smile upon you.
Without any further ado, we have a mother of the movement. She's a sister that works tirelessly to ensure that justice prevails for all. She is representing an organization called Street Corner Resources. Sister Aisha Sukul. Yes. Show some love.
Peace and blessings, family. So, one, I want to say thank you to my brother, Eric Adams, the Brooklyn Borough President. I remember the struggle and the journey and the power and the steadfastness. So I thank you, because you're the example I can point to of what can happen, what can become. I was talking to my team about you this morning, and often talk about you to my young people. And so I want to say thank you, Ingrid, for all of your hard work, and everybody else that helped to put this together. I would be remiss if I just make this a celebratory moment. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I have a 23-year-old grandson. And every time, not just when he comes to New York, but particularly when he comes here, I worry about his interaction when he leaves the house. Whether or not he's going to have interaction with the police, and whether or not he will return back home. When he's in Houston playing football, I worry about him in Houston having interaction with the police. When he was in Kansas in college, I was worried about him, prayed for him every day. He was heavy on my heart. So I understand the part about the worry. Mothers worrying about their sons when they leave. The part that I don't really get, and I'm grateful that I don't have that, but I feel heavy in my heart for the mother who lost her son or daughter to police violence. So I can't be here acting like all is well. All is not well. All is not well. And I'll tell you why. Yesterday, there were precinct meetings all across the city. And then I saw a tweet go out this morning, very early. And I realized it was really a public relations Band-Aid. Because in that meeting, there was no resolve about anything, no commitment to anything. And then there were sound bites, and I don't talk in the sound bite. Anybody that know me, I can't even just say one sentence. So they had me saying about one or two sentences, that was it. So I just want to reiterate one or two things, and then I'm going to stop. One, we cannot put a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. If your leg is cut open, you will not want the doctor to put a Band-Aid on it. Right now, relationships in this city with the police department, with the behavior that we've seen of the police, right after the legislation that the chokehold was banned, a man was choked on camera. That says that they are not getting it. So that says that we have to stay on it. So while we are celebrating Black Lives Matter and they are showing us that they don't, we need to stay steady and fast, and if they want to build relationships, there will be no Band-Aid. We have to change things, and we have to really build real relationships. Stop the fakeness. Don't go along to get along. Let's build this back in a way that works for everyone. My name is Aisha Sekou. Peace and blessings, family. Let's build together. Black Lives Matter.
So now we have a brother from Brooklyn. Many of you probably know him. He lost a son to gun violence at the hands of the police officer, but he knows that there's a bigger and broader agenda. He formed an organization called Lay the Guns Down. He is now with us today representing a conglomerate of organizations called Community Hub. Let's put your hands together for Advocate Mike Tucker. Come on.
All right, so Nani and Nigel, I already told you I'm not gonna cry. So I get real emotional because, as Ingrid said, I lost a son at the hands of a police officer. 14 years, 6 months, 26 days I've been fighting this fight. I'm trying to teach our young people that I work with on the hub how to scream and get heard. We're screaming right now that we're getting hurt, but we still have a lot of work to do. But it's great to know that we have leaders, and I say leaders, that are not just here doing this because the cameras are here. We have leaders that are concerned about people that live in this city, that live in this borough, that live in this state. We have leaders that are here every day to ensure that Brooklyn and the surrounding areas are safe. So I want to thank, I'm sorry my mask keeps sliding down. I want to thank the Borough President for all of the work that he does. I want to thank the Borough President for when he was at 1669 Bedford Avenue as a New York State Senator, and I was somebody who just lost a son, and I was in pain, and I needed some answers and someone to guide me and give me help. That man took my call. He sat down with me, he gave me guidance. That's why I'm standing here before you today to say that Black Lives Matter. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that the people that care about us are with us. Thank you, God bless.
Moving along, we have another advocate that many of you know well from the community. He was one of the first people in an organization called Black Lives Matter on a national level. We now have Black Lives Matter on a Brooklyn level, and he's here with us, Mr. Anthony Beckford.
Well, let me also introduce my daughter, Harmony Beckford, who is the president of the youth chapter of Black Lives Matter Brooklyn. Because we don't only put these footsteps for ourselves, we put it so that way we lay down a legacy for the youth, so that way they understand that they are heard and that they matter as well. So when I say Black Lives, I want y'all to say matter. Black Lives, Black Lives, Black Lives. Now, as y'all heard, my name is Anthony Beckford. I'm the president of Black Lives Matter Brooklyn. Been basically putting out the call since the age of 12 myself as an advocate, fighting against the school systems that was trying to segregate us and take away funding from us. My call became even greater with the more injustices I've seen throughout the years in the military and even in my adulthood. And I've seen the injustices when I came home and seen the streets painted with the blood of our people. The injustices that we felt every single day for over 400 years. And I promise that we will never go above 401. And that's my agenda, my goal. Because my voice is not for mine alone. It's for our people. It's for them to not only respect our rights, but respect our bodies and respect our voices. When we come together and we're painting on these streets, it's not just a symbolism to look at. It is for these judges, for these police officers, and for these court officers to realize who matters as they walk inside these buildings. It's for as these people come out of the train stations, for them to understand and become empowered about who's behind them as they walk into these dungeons. Because at the end of the day, the system was not built to empower us, but we will be empowered to make sure it works for us. We have to realize, as our brother Malcolm said, the divide comes from those who want to come from the outside and keep our people against each other. So not only do they co-opt our systems, but they co-opt our movements. And I'm going to make it very clear today that if you're a true ally, you will learn that the movement and the politics of our communities are Black-led. And you will respect that and support that. But also to those who do not walk in our path, but share the melanin as us. If we do not accept the tyranny of systemic racism, we will not accept your complicity to that same system. Because at the end of the day, Black lives matter. All Black lives matter every day, all day.
Without any further ado, we'll hear from some of our elected officials who are responsible for helping this become a reality. We have with us Assemblymember Joanne Simon, who represents this district and rather well, if I might add. So without any further ado, Assemblymember Joanne Simon, would you please say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Mr. Borough President. I did not actually realize I was speaking. But I think that the message is very clear, and it's a message that all of us have to embrace, and all of us, I believe, want to embrace. And it may not be easy, and the path may not be clear, but it is very clear that the message is that Black Lives Matter. We are here today painting that in the street, and it has to be something in our hearts. And the more we do to paint, to talk to each other, the more we will have that message of Black Lives Matter in our hearts every day, so that we can truly embrace Black Lives Matter and ensure that we have an equitable society here in the United States and in New York and in Brooklyn. Brooklyn comes first, and then we move on. So I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank everybody here for giving me the opportunity to say a few words in solidarity. Thank you very much.
And now we have a sister who has made history in Brooklyn. This is the first time that Brooklyn has had a female county leader. And she is also our Assembly Member, Rodney's Bouchon. Please, County Leader Bouchon.
Good afternoon. Black lives, Black lives, Black lives. My name is Assemblymember Rodney Spichard, and I represent Flatbush, Brooklyn. I am also, as you heard from my sister, Ingrid Martin, the first woman, the first Black woman to hold and be the Brooklyn Democratic Party leader. I want to thank Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Yes, let's give it up to him for putting this event together. I also want to acknowledge Mayor Bill de Blasio and Councilmember Levin. I also want to thank all my colleagues for being here, who's going to say a few words. But certainly I would be remiss if I did not thank the voice of the people, our advocates, our protesters. Let's give it up to our advocates. I also want to give a shout out. We have some actors in the house. We have Jamie Hector. Today we're here to unveil the Black Lives Matter mural at Brooklyn Borough Hall. This is an occasion to celebrate. In just a few moments, we have turned our outrage over the murder of George Floyd, an unarmed Black man killed at the hands of law enforcement, into action. Last week, the people of New York City and state celebrated Juneteenth,
collectively for the first time in history. Yes, we came together, yes, for this holiday commemorating the emancipation of enslaved Africans, both to celebrate and to share the effects of structural and institutional racism with all the people in New York. But it didn't start or end there. My colleagues are here with me. In the state legislature, we also introduced a slew of police reform bills. We have passed the repeal of 50A, where police officers' disciplinary records will now be made public. Yes, Black Lives Matter. We passed the STAT Act, which were required to capture and report the race and ethnicity and sex of anyone arrested and charged with a misdemeanor, or who dies while in a police custody or during an attempt to establish custody. We passed a special prosecutor where any issue involving a civilian who's killed in the hands of a police officer would not go and tried in the hands of the district attorney, but a special prosecutor's office. Because we want to make sure there's integrity in our investigation. We also passed to ban chokeholds. Yes. We remember Eric Garner and so many lives. We also passed to report a discharged weapon in circumstances where a person could be struck by a bullet and establish a law enforcement misconduct investigative office. We also passed the right to record. You have the right to record an incident when you see between a law enforcement officer and a civilian. Racism isn't exclusive to police, though. It is embedded in our society, in our culture. We see the inequalities daily in our schools. You heard, our schools has been segregated for so many years. Think about it. When we think about the specialized high school, only 7 Black kids were admitted to Stuyvesant High School. And you know what? We're talking about Black Lives Matter, but when we respond to the news and say this is unfair, people say, oh, well they need to be, they need to work harder. They need to stop hanging around. They need to do their homework. But they're not understanding that Black Lives Matter is a whole issue of equity in how we live, in our housing, in our health care, in our wages, everything. It's not just one silo thing. Leading up to the murder of George Floyd, we saw several false 911 reports, didn't you? There was a woman in Central Park, her name is Central Park Karen, where she called on the police on a Black man who asked her to leash her dog. We also saw in my district when a little boy was accused of sexually assaulting a white woman. Black Lives Matter. We made that illegal. We must go on. Now, in the state legislature, we have passed a number of reports, a number of bills, but we still have to pass racial profiling. We did not pass racial profiling, which would require police officers to report on every stop, question, and frisk. Our voices need to be heard. They said that, oh, it's too much of a burden. It's too much of a burden on a police officer, but that's the root of the problem. We need to collect data on these incidences. This mural is a representation of how far we've gone and how far we have yet to go. The Brooklyn Borough Hall mural will join the public installations in every borough. I am proud to join in this unveiling of this mural in this historic Brooklyn Heights today. I know that this public representation of our struggle and achievements will one day be part of History Brooklyn too, a more progressive history than we ever have seen before. Black lives, Black lives, Black lives. Thank you.
Thank you, County Leader Rodney's Bouchon. Remember the name, County Leader, the first Black female county leader in the borough of Brooklyn. We're grateful for that. With us, we have one of her partners in the Assembly. And the county leader explained to you that legislation had been passed into a bill, I believe at this point, right? It's now law. She could not have done that without her partners in the Assembly. You heard from one of them, Assemblymember Joanne Simon. So now I asked her other partner in the Assembly, Assemblymember Bobby Carroll, please come forward and share a few words. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Deputy Borough President Ingrid Martin. Thank you so much, Borough President Eric Adams. And I want to thank County Leader Rodney's Bouchon and my colleague, Assemblymember Joanne Simon, and Councilmember Levin and Farah Lewis, and Mayor de Blasio for bringing us all here today. And I've been to a lot of these rallies in the last month since the murder of George Floyd. And I don't have any great words of wisdom. I'm trying to be the best ally I can be. I'm trying to listen, because as a white man, I don't have that same experience. I don't have that experience with the police. And I can't fathom that experience. And so I want to echo what the great activist Anthony Beckford just said, that this has got to be a Black-led movement. We've got to have Black men and women telling us what's going on in our city, in our state, in our country, so that we can all come together to try to rectify the wrongs of the past and build a bridge to the future. So I think a lot of white folks like me know that we've got a scourge of over-policing, know that that can't go on any longer, and that finally, lots of people are saying loudly and proudly, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. That is so important. I can tell you I'm going to try to be the best ally I can be. I'm not going to be perfect, but I want to work with all of you so that we can make sure that we stop this, so we don't have to do this anymore. Black Lives Matter. I'm so glad to be with all of you today.
Thank you, Assembly Member. And now we have a council member who many of you may know, but she's from the Flatbush area, and I see a lot of Flatbushes in the house today for some reason. I don't know, but Flatbush and Crown Heights is in the house today. And I'm grateful to see all of you, but everybody from everywhere. And if you're not from Brooklyn, we thank you for joining with us today, because it's important that we work in partnership. So I asked council member, the newest council member to the New York City Council, Farah Lewis. Please join us.
Good afternoon, everyone. The people united, they will never be defeated. So let's say it. The people united will never be defeated. Again, the people united will never be, one more time, the people united, they will never be defeated. Are we united? Are we together? That should not change. This moment should not change how we think about Black lives. This is not a climate matter. This is not a fad. This is not a style. It is our livelihood. And I want you to remember that each and every day, and this reminder will be right here on Joralemon Street for the decision makers in there, for the legislators that are here, and for the people around the world to remember that we, united, will never be defeated. I want to thank Borough President Eric Adams for spearheading this. I appreciate you. You are a staunch leader. You know I love you. I want to thank Mayor de Blasio for listening, for not only having an ear, but taking action. And I want to thank Councilmember Levin for also participating in this mural being unveiled today. And I just want to remind everyone, as my assembly member mentioned earlier, legislation is a prominent way to change things, and we are going to continue to do that, but we need the advocates to be on our side, continue to use your voice. We need the youth to continue to be out there and use your voice so we could do what we need to do inside the chambers. Thank you.
So many of you kept hearing the name Council Member Stephen Levin. You heard his name repeatedly because he represents this district. Without the support of the New York City Council to get Black Lives Matter painted on the streets and to get it painted on the streets expeditiously, it would have never happened. And each council member had to sign off for it to happen in their district. Once Councilmember Steve Levin heard what the request was, he said, whatever the people want, that's what I do. So the council member is here, and he will share a few words with you. So put your hands together for Councilmember Steve Levin.
Thank you to my friend Ingrid Martin, our Deputy Borough President. I want to thank our Borough President Eric Adams. I want to thank our County Leader Radnice Bichot. I want to thank all of our Assembly members, my colleague in the Council, Farrah Lewis. I want to thank all of you that are here today. We are in a moment right now in our country. We're in a moment, we've seen moments like this in the past, in the 60s, during the Civil Rights Movement. But we have an opportunity right now to say affirmatively, broadcast around the world, around the country, to our ancestors and to our grandchildren, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter in Brooklyn, Black Lives Matter in New York City, Black Lives Matter in America, Black Lives Matter around the world. And we are going to do what we have to do as a society to face up to the racist past and structural racism that we have in this country for far too many generations. And we have to, everybody, black people, white people, everybody needs to come together and say, we are going to confront this head on. We're not going to delay it any longer. Not one more week, not one more month, not one more year, not one more generation. We are going to confront the structural racism in our society. We have to take a deep look in the mirror. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. This is affirming that Black lives matter. All Black lives matter. And so I'm very, very gratified to be here today with my colleagues in government, with our borough president, who has led the charge, with our mayor, Bill de Blasio, who has acted quickly to make sure that we are making this statement. But it does not end here. It does not end here. We have to take the legislative actions. We have to take the actions in our budget. Right now, we are, right as we speak, negotiating the city's budget. We want to make sure that we are investing in communities of color, that we're no longer just investing in police, and we're taking the resources that are in the police department and investing those in the community, in community-based justice, in community-based programming, in programming for our children, taking care of our seniors. We know that Black and brown communities were disproportionately affected by COVID. I saw a survey come out last night that said 1/3 of Black Americans know somebody who died from COVID. 1/3 of Black Americans surveyed know somebody that died from COVID. That would be the last, 8 people that have died from COVID in the last 4 months. That means it's not just about police, it's about investing in our communities, investing in healthcare, investing in our children. So that's what this is about. And so that's what's going to be required to us after today. Once we go forth, having made this statement unequivocally here on Joralemon Street, our charge is to put those words into action every single day in everything we do. And I want to thank the Borough President, and I want to thank the Mayor, I want to thank our Deputy Borough President, Ingrid Martin, and all of you for being out here today. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving along. The borough president will be our final speaker, but before he speaks, I have to deviate because Mike Tucker said he forgot to say something. Mike, you said you forgot to say something. He wanted to say something, and then Anthony wants to do a special presentation just before the VP speaks.
Yes, I apologize. When I was up here, I got so caught into what I was saying that I didn't say the most important thing. That over the last several days, there's been 448 shootings in our boroughs. This is not what we do. We're saying that Black Lives Matter, but we have an alarming increase in shootings in our communities. So I'm calling out to my brothers and sisters that can hear our voice. If you're saying that you're for Black Lives Matter, then I'm asking you to stop shooting the people that live in your community, that look like you. We have too much pain going on, and we need to stop it. If we're gonna say Black Lives Matter, let's stop, and let's stop the violence within our communities. Please, thank you.
Mr. Beckford?
So real quick, I just want to give a shout out to members of Black Lives Matter Brooklyn, both out there, Kashif, Finkel, James, and everybody back there. And shout out to y'all, for coming out and supporting. But Eric, I need you to come up here real quick. You see, when I came out with the movement, not a lot of people believed in what we were doing. A lot of people turned their backs on us, gave lip service, and lip service is cheap. But there's always been one person, not only as an elected official, but as a black man that has stood strong for the people and make sure our voices are amplified. So today, I'd like to honor Eric Adams, the Borough President of Brooklyn, as an honorary member of Black Lives Matter Brooklyn. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you.
In my brevity, I want to first thank the advocates for doing what so many people find difficulty in doing, and that's turning pain into purpose. They took the painful loss of their loved ones, and instead of saying, "Woe is me," they said, "Why not me?" And they started the journey that has paved the way for all of us to pave the streets across America, saying in a very clear, pronounced way, Black Lives Matter. So I thank you and I salute you for what you are doing. Let me be clear and send a message out. I remember sitting in a meeting and some of the young people said to the elders that you don't understand us. You don't understand this movement. You need to get out of the way and you need to let us do it. Those comments were made 42 years ago when Arthur Miller was choked and murdered by police. And I remember going to the front of the room and telling to the young people that this battle is a relay race. And those elders pass you the baton, and you should take it with a level of dignity and respect for people who had the audacity to stand up and run their leg. Now it's time for us to run our leg. And at 18 years old, I took that baton and I bowed to those elders who paved the way and made it possible for me. And that's the message I want to say to my young people. You are now given the baton. Don't fall into the mindset that you can trample over the lives of the elders who made it possible for you to run your leg. Embrace your elders. Take their wisdom and knowledge and learn from it so you won't make the mistakes that we made. Other groups look down on our elders. We don't do that. Harriet Tubman ran her mile. Sojourner Truth ran her mile. Marcus Garvey ran his mile. Malcolm X ran his mile. Dr. King ran his mile. And because they ran their mile, they were able to hand the baton over to Barack Obama so he could run his mile. This is a relay, not a sprint. That's why it's imperative that we do this together. And I'm clear, it is my job to get out of your way, but to use my 22 years of policing to assist you in how to navigate the complexities of getting real results and not just ceremonial results. That is what we're going for. It is my obligation to use what it was to be beat in the precinct, to talk to you about what it is to be a victim of police brutality, not just to read about it, but to live through it. That is what this moment is about. And we would dilute our position of authority if we separate ourselves from each other. We are in this together. When a cop abuses a person, he does not ask to look for your birth certificate. He abused you because of the color of your skin. So I hear the energy. I hear the beliefs. Don't let other ethnicities get in your ear and separate you from those who made this battle possible. Black Lives Matter. I don't care if you're 80, 18, or 8. Black Lives Matter. And why are we doing this here today? You go back in history, 1848, this building was built. 1 year later, in 1849, Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery. She started the process of running towards the North Star. And instead of staying away, she went back and she helped so many other slaves be free. And people used to ask her, "Sister, you freed so many slaves. You must be proud." And she responded, "I would have freed more if they only knew they were enslaved." And I say today, so many of us may not have the physical restraints of slavery, but we still have the internal belief that we are enslaved. And by putting Black Lives Matter in the oldest governmental building in Brooklyn, right here at the heart of the municipal building, at the crossroad of the Supreme Court, the criminal court, and where people come here to make laws and ensure laws are carried out, we are saying in a very clear and pronounced way that every time you drive down this street as a judge, every time you walk this block as a lawyer, every time you visit this building to get a building permit that throws out black and brown people, you're going to see that Black Lives Matter. Every time you visit the Department of Education, where our classrooms are segregated more now than ever, you're going to know Black Lives Matter. Every time you go to jury duty and make a determination on the sentence that is handed down more on blacks than any other group, you're going to know Black Lives Matter. Every time you walk in this building and you see the first black borough president, you're going to know that Black Lives Matter. We're putting it here for a reason, because as it was stated, this is not a fad. This is not some popularity event. It's not going to be hijacked by Hollywood. It's going to remain on the ground. And you're not going to meet us and then put out statements that you met and all is fine. And you're not going to use the comments of others to try to demonize this movement. That's the power of when you're ready to move forward. This is a time that has come. It is so significant for us. The Emancipation Proclamation was just something that was wrote on a piece of paper with no significant meaning to it at all. All of these years, and I hear what some of you say, well, slavery was a long time ago. Why are y'all still talking about it? It happened so long ago. Anthony Bethwick served in our military. Countless number of black men and women contribute to this country. And over again, the systemic actions of racism is embedded in the DNA of this country. What we are doing now is rewiring that DNA to say it's no longer acceptable anywhere in America. This is the most significant moment in American history that's taking place right now. We've had the greatest legislative change in the history of America in a short period of time. So I thank all of these young people. I thank all of these elders. I thank all of you who have come today and picked up a roller and put paint on this ground. And we're not trying to paint over racism. We're highlighting where we are right now at this significant moment in our history of who and what we're going to become, not only as Americans, but as human beings. And to those of our white colleagues who went through the horror of Trump, went through the horror of coronavirus, went through the horror of losing your jobs, now having to stand on pantry lines to get a meal, unsure about your rent being paid, your children were ripped from the school and a level of uncertainty of how their education would be. You found your voice. Clearly, Floyd was not the author of I Can't Breathe. We did not have to go 1,000 miles away to know that black men were not breathing just a borough away in Staten Island. We heard it. The only difference then and now is now for the first time in your lives, many of you are feeling black. You know what it is to have an uncertainty in the country that you did everything right and you were denied your basic opportunities and your right to exist. That is black in America. And so we welcome you as our partners. But your job as a partner is to walk beside us or behind us. You do not lead us. This is our fight, and we are made and bold enough to take this fight on. You cannot gentrify Black Lives Matter. And we're going to keep the mission focused. Every area of this country must address this issue. Not only in policing. Policing is the protective force of the institutions that has placed their needs on the necks of black people. We got to integrate our schools in a real way. Every CEO in corporate America, look at the description of them. We don't want you just merely to write a check and contribute and check off the box. No, integrate your corporate boardrooms. We want you to integrate the hierarchy of the police department. Nothing stops the mayor from hiring a civilian to be a precinct commander. He can integrate the top of the police department instantly. We want to integrate our judges. Tired of seeing white men in black robes handing out black justice to us. Every area. And I know that people don't believe how serious we are about this. But I do. And yes, you were not around for slavery. Yes, you were not around when the 3,000 of black men were lynched. You were not around when the KKK was burning homes. You were not around when we couldn't vote. You were not around for any of those things. But you are around now. And if you continue to silently allow it to happen, then you are just as active as the person who carried out the initial act. And all I can hope is that as we laid on the floor of the 103rd precinct, being beat and yelling out, I hope that one day someone would have heard our voice. 15-year-old boy having his innocence robbed from him, turn into just a life of despair. Every time you stop a black and brown boy and search him and frisk him for no reason at all, you robbed his innocence. When the symbol of authority goes beyond their authority, you rob his innocence. 30-year-old Arthur Miller murdered. 42 years later, Floyd, Zongo, Diallo. The names are so many. This movement is so important. And so I'm proud to be with all of you who are here today, acknowledging that the uplifting of the black race will help us uplift the human race. We're in a dark period right now. This is a dark moment for America. But I've learned so long ago, sometimes when you're in a dark space, you are not buried, you're planted. So the question is, what are we going to do with the fruits of our harvest? Our generations to come are watching us. That's right. And we must ensure that we never have to come to this place again. Black Lives Matter today, Black Lives Matter yesterday, Black Lives Matter tomorrow. Thank you.